Florida's insurance market is filled with fraud, corruption, and bribery. That's today's video. Hello, my name is Mike Keeler. I'm a licensed public adjuster in the state of Florida. Today we're going to be talking about the insurance market in Florida. It's filled with fraud, disgust, crime, bribery, you name it. We're going to go into details about this. Oftentimes, the people who say somebody's committing fraud, somebody's doing this bad, somebody's doing that bad, when a husband or wife says, "Are you cheating?" it's because they have a guilty conscience a lot of times, and they're actually the ones doing wrong. So in this case, for years we heard about all these fraudulent lawsuits. We heard about all these fraudulent roof claims. We heard about the vast amount of lawsuits and how they needed to change the laws in Florida because of fraud everywhere. Yes. And now it's being exposed that the fraud came from the insurance companies, came from the politicians, and came from people that serve as a CEO for companies. So yes, the fraud, the bribery, the corruption was not caused by people filing quote-unquote fraudulent claims. It's from the people that were saying homeowners are committing fraud. Those are the people now who we found out, and we're starting to find out, are the ones committing the fraud. Let's get into it. Okay, so we have this article here, just posted on May 3rd. Here it is, May 3rd. In Yahoo from the Guardian. DeSantis accused of favoring insurance industry donors at residents' expense. So let's go through a little bit of this report because it's really damning. Okay, so DeSantis received just recently $3.9 million in contribution from insurance industry players. And if you go back to 2019, he's received almost $10 million. Now, that's the accounted for number. You can bet that it's probably a lot higher than insurance companies gave him. So they also found out that 2 casualty insurance firms donated a combined total of $125,000 to DeSantis' inaugural celebration. It's no coincidence, they report. They put insurance companies' interests ahead of Florida's own citizens who are battling homeowners' insurance rates. Instead of fixing problems with Florida's property insurance industry, DeSantis has lavished the industry with favors and benefits while everyday Floridians suffer. Okay? They talk about Florida's legislature passed a bill that stripped policyholders of ability to recover legal fees when suing insurance companies that refuse to honor legitimate claims. DeSantis trumpeted the signing of this bill on his official page. So it goes on and on and on. You know, they're talking about here the price hikes. Price hikes are expected to average 40%. Now, DeSantis and all these corrupt Republicans in the state of Florida, okay, now I'm saying Florida, I'm not saying everywhere, they announced that this is going to help insurance rates. Insurance rates are going to go down. No. And we're going to go through another article right after this. So, as you can tell, they also they draw a contrast with Louisiana, where they actually are trying to subsidize the insurance industry to increase the participation in the state property insurance market. That's not what Florida's doing. Florida is penalizing, hurting, and screwing homeowners and helping insurance companies. So, it's damning. Now let's go through the other article. Okay, so let's review this article. This is by a gal by the name of Laura Loomer. She ran as a Republican somewhere up in West Palm Beach for one of the House seats, and I believe she lost. So she's got this scathing article about DeSantis and about a CEO of an insurance company here in Florida. Let's go through some of the highlights of this article. And I'm going to put both articles, the links, in my YouTube description below. So take a look at it, pass it around. So they talk about Citizens, first and foremost. And here's the Board of Citizens. And they talk about how in September of 22, Citizens announced it was practically insolvent. Okay? Now, remember this name, CEO Citizens Barry Gilway. Okay? He had talked that they have over 1 million policies. And then back in after Hurricane Ian, Citizens had 1.1 million policies. By far the largest insurance company in Florida. So they talk about the crisis became so severe regarding the insurance market that DeSantis called for an emergency legislative session. So that did take place, and people were ticked off. Outrage flowed during a special legislative session. Florida homeowners viewed the event as a means to aid insurance company and opposed to lowering rates for homeowners, who are paying for insurance that cannot cover their claims. So the other big, I guess you can say, red flag is that Governor DeSantis mentioned in one of his speeches recently that Citizens is not solvent. But yet they continue to sell policies. This can be grounds for Floridians who have Citizens policies to sue over fraudulent bait and switch business practices. So in other words, you can't say that a company is solvent and then sell somebody a policy. So you don't have money and you're selling people's policies, but you're not letting people know that you don't have any money in the kitty to pay claims. But it gets even worse. So they knew since 2019 that Citizens on the verge of being insolvent and did nothing to address it. And again, so they talk about something involving Gilway, the CEO of Citizens. So violations, he was serving as a CEO and a registered lobbyist for insurance companies. Between 2012, 2022, he was also the CEO. So let me put this in context. A guy who's the CEO of the largest insurance company in Florida is also a lobbyist going to Tallahassee saying, hey, we need these laws changed to help us, the insurance companies, out. So they passed additional legislation it talks about in March to curb lawsuits, basically. All right. So they passed it to help Citizens because you can sue them for fraud by selling you a policy when they were insolvent. So they passed a law to protect Citizens. Interesting. So they go on to talk about how the bailout was so absurd that former President Donald Trump talked about this. That it's the biggest insurance company bailout to globalist insurance companies in history. He also crushed Florida homeowners whose houses were destroyed in the hurricane. Okay? They talk about how he signed the statute of limitations went from 4 years to 2 years. Eliminated one-way attorney fees. In other words, where insurance companies have to pay for the attorney fees. No longer is that the case. But they never signed any type of law to lower insurance premiums. So 4 years in Tallahassee, 2 special sessions. DeSantis continues to ignore the worsening property insurance crisis in Florida. And now he's making it easier for insurance company to rip off policyholders and get away with it. So let's see, Citizens Property Insurance doesn't care because they lobbied for legal protection while knowing they are not solvent enough to fulfill claims filed by their growing list of policyholders. And it also talks about this whistleblower. So this guy came forward and brought to the Office of Insurance Regulations and the Department of Financial Services and the CFO, Jimmy Petronas, information on how they're supposed to, what they call, put reserves on stuff, and that Citizens doesn't do it. And that had these other companies that filed for bankruptcy or insolvency, so about the reserve audit on individual claim files. So had they done this, it would have been caught that some of these companies were having difficulties, and it probably could have been saved. So it's almost, what they're trying to say is that they wanted them to fail. They wanted all these insurance companies to go under the state. DeSantis, people like Gilway, whatever the Citizen CEO's name is, they wanted this problem so that the laws can get changed to hurt people. So on April 20th, this is a whistleblower, received a response from the Director of Property. Okay, here it is. He made the whistleblower warnings 2019 about the leadership and decision-making at Citizens Insurance. And then the OIR and people who kind of answer complaints regarding the Department of Insurance or against insurance companies. This guy worked for a national insurance company involved with doing his reserves. So the point of reserves is that you have to have a certain amount of reserves on hand to pay claims. And had they reported this on a timely basis to the government and have various audits, a lot of these companies would never went under. Let's see. So they go through all these companies that went under. Now, all of these are not property insurance companies. Some of them are small. Some of them are medical. But you get the gist. So Gilway, again, the lobbyist who's CEO, was interviewed. And he said that the vast majority of roof claims are fraud and that it's just a money grab for attorneys and public adjusters. They go on to say here, it's a great point. If a vast majority of roofing claims filed in Florida are fraudulent, then Barry Gilway is claiming that the vast majority of Citizens Insurance policyholders filed fraudulent claims. This is a big accusation and claim to make with no data to back it up as evidence. If hundreds of thousands of Citizens policyholders are filing fraudulent roof claims, there will certainly be data and a statutory requirement for them to prove it, as confirmed in Citizens' own best claims practices. However, Gilway never provided any data because his claims were false and were clearly stated as a way to advance and provide cover for Governor DeSantis' special legislative session that was convened for the sake of crafting legal immunity for Citizens Insurance. On top of that, Gilway announced he would depart. And as a matter of fact, DeSantis They agreed to pay him $650,000 to keep him as an advisor. This despite their insolvency. Unfortunately for the consumer, none of these changes Mr. Gilroy allowed before have made any difference with regards to lowering the cost of insurance as premiums continue to skyrocket. Florida has the highest property insurance rates in Florida, and they have significantly risen underneath DeSantis. Gilroy's hidden lobby efforts reveal a long history of public corruption seemingly tolerated and indeed fostered by the governor of Florida and his cabinet. Lobbying has become such an issue with regards to Florida's plagued insurance market that in May of 2019, Florida CFO Jimmy Patronis sent a formal letter to Gilroy stating, transparency, yada, 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 yada. I'm requesting citizens attend the next meeting. Okay, whatever. So Patronis' letter was a way to provide political cover at some point down the road Mr. Gilroy's lobbying efforts for the governor's agenda were ever discovered. That's what I'm talking about. It's all about fraud, corruption, and deceit. So you can go on and on, but I think you get the gist of it. People are suffering in Florida, homeowners. People are having difficulties paying now for the insurance. It's a complete farce. Everything that's been said about all the fraudulent claims and people filing fraudulent claims and roofers and public adjusters and attorneys and water mitigation companies, it was all farce. They were the ones committing all the fraud. So, my name is Mike Keeler. Again, I'm a licensed public adjuster here in Florida. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you see what's been going on. If you have a question, need help with a claim, that's how you can get a hold of me. Thank you.